Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a Thursday edition of the Pewter Report podcast, presented by our friends over at Briargreaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company you can count on. For auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, get Briargreaves Insurance your business. Locally owned, family owned, and operated here in the Tampa Bay area. Visit BriarGreavesInsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. We have a fun show planned for you Buccaneer fans today, as yours truly, Scott Reynolds, along with J.P. Peterson, friend of the program,
hello,
are going to be talking about the Bucs' top 5 NFC threats. We had a Pewter Report roundtable discussion about this on PewterReport.com earlier in the week, but you know what? Such a great topic. It deserves even more attention. And we're doing that today here on the Pewter Report podcast. And we're doing it with J.P. Peterson. Thanks
What's
for joining
up,
the show,
Scotty
man.
Reynolds?
How are you?
How you doing? Oh, I'm outstanding, man. We're 100 days from the NFL. Is that right? Or maybe under before the opener? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm excited. Be a long 100 days.
I'm excited about it, but at the same time, I just get back from a 7-day cruise. I'm ready for an extended vacation too before the season starts. Why? Because it's long, man. From the last week of July all the way through, hopefully longer into January, maybe even into February. This football season, man.
Yeah,
it's long. And JP, I don't know about you, but the older I get, the more it takes out of me. So,
oh my God,
I'm ready for summer.
Imagine if you were still traveling with the team.
Oh yeah. Whew. Well, I'm going to hit a couple of games this year, but I am ready for the summer vacation coming up. But first, we have another round of OTAs next week, and then we have we've got the mandatory minicamp, and then we get 6 weeks, and then the start of training camp and Bucs season. And I promise you, everybody out there in Pewter Report land, we will be rested and ready to give you all the best coverage of the Buccaneers.
That means he's got some good vacations coming up. Yeah,
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
I got a couple. I have not executed yet, but
okay. But they're in the playbook, right? You're
absolutely. Got to get to Chicago, get to Wrigley Field with my son.
There you go. That's nice.
And see my daughter. So a lot of good stuff coming. But right now, we got to talk about the this upcoming Bucs season, which last year was a great anticipation. Yeah. This year is much.
Yeah, it is. And we have a couple of announcements to get to before we dive into today's topic. One of which is pretty cool. We've got special guest Bucs head coach Todd Bowles on the Monday program. So make sure you are here at Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel. Also streaming live on X and Facebook at Pewter Report to check out Todd Bowles as he makes his first appearance on the Pewter Report podcast Monday at 4:00. That's June 2nd. Then the next Monday, June 9th, the eve of mandatory minicamp, we will have another special guest, friend of the program, Jason Light, Bucs general manager, will be joining us. So we got the Bucs brass and back-to-back Mondays. We're excited about that, and we're excited to talk some Bucs football with you all. And if you are a Pewter Platinum or Premier member, then you will get a bonus podcast tomorrow at 1:30, where I'll be talking about the Bucs offensive line. Can it be even better in 2025? And JP, just a little teaser, I think it can. I mean, they have all 5 guys returning, right?
Which is rare. Yeah, they've got all 5 guys returning, and more importantly, all their coaches returning as well. Well, actually, maybe not more importantly, but the coaches are returning as well, which, the continuity was maybe in question for a little bit when Liam took off. Maybe he would take some with him, but nope. They retained him, and I think that was a huge get for the Buccaneers to maintain that continuity.
No doubt about it. Before we dive into today's topic, you and I are old timers when it comes to covering the Buccaneers.
We don't look it, though.
We don't look it, no. But
we sure sound like it sometimes.
Yeah, but we've been around the block, though, right? And the cool thing is we were actually here for both Buccaneers Super Bowls. Yes. The first one back there in 2002, Super Bowl 37. And then, of course, the more recent one, the Tom Brady one, that was in 2020. But I wanted to get your thoughts real quick just because I have you. And, you were one of the guys that actually covered Simeon Rice. We're in the locker room, listening to the Simeonisms from Planet Simeon, and then watching the brilliance of this pass rusher just destroy quarterbacks from 2001 through 2004. 2004, 2005.
Wow.
Actually 2005, yeah, because he was on that other NFC South division winning team with John Gruden in 2005. But let me get your thoughts on him finally getting into the Bucs Ring of Honor, because I think it's been long overdue and very well deserved.
Absolutely well deserved. Maybe even as Joel mentioned in the presentation, an oversight in Canton as well, and maybe that will be rectified. But Simeon, quite frankly, was the most unique player I've ever covered as a Buccaneer. I think I can say that. And he was an absolute chiseled Adonis. The Lord made a pass rusher. He made Simeon Rice, 6'7", a 7-foot wingspan, quick as a cat. But he also added to that this incredible level of dedication. He was a player that never quit. He loved to just push and just keep pushing to see how far he could take his body. He was really one of the crazy workout freaks before that really became vogue in this league.
Right.
He was amazing as an athlete, but he combined that with not only that work ethic, but then the creativity. When you get to know Simeon, I've kept in touch with him over the years, and you get to know him. I've hung out with him before, and man, that's a lot of fun. I can tell you that. He is one of the most creative minds I've ever met in my life. And I literally would listen to some of his interviews while we were doing them back in the day, and just say to myself off the cuff, that's a bunch of gobbledygook. I don't know what the hell he even just said, and trying to use some words. And I'm like, and then I'd go back and listen to it in the editor and go, that was spot on. He nailed every one. It just went right over my head.
Yeah.
He was so smart and so creative, had the athleticism and the intellect to make himself an absolute terror, because you got to be smart out there. You got to set up your moves. It's a chess game. What's he thinking? I'm going to think the other way. So he combined them both. And that's why his numbers were for his generation as good as any eight-year stretch as anybody in football. And that includes Michael Strahan. That includes DeMarcus Ware, guys that are already in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
That's
I can't say enough about Simeon, not only as a player, but as a person. But that guy was absolutely chiseled to be an edge rusher, and he was fantastic.
You know, one of the things that really stood out to me about Simeon, and you remember those days over there in Celebration. It was one thing when you had training camp at University of Tampa. Yeah. And they would have that kind of like at nighttime, really, like in the twilight hours, whatever. They had 2 days, but the second one was at night typically. And they would fill the stands up at the old University of Tampa soccer fields. And that was part of a PR move to generate interest in the team. And
Pepin Rood Stadium,
that's right. And sell some tickets. Well, it was different when John Gruden came to town, because he's like, we're getting out of Tampa, man. We're going over to Celebration, Florida, man. We're going to get away from all the noise. And his 2-a-days were like 8:30 in the morning, right? And then the second one was after lunch, like 2:30 in the afternoon, right?
Brutal.
And you remember in Celebration, there was absolutely no breeze. It's not like in Tampa where you get like the Gulf winds and that kind of stuff. No, you're in the middle of the state over there by Disney. There's no wind. It's a furnace just baking you for 2 practices. I don't know how the players did it, but I'll never forget Simeon Rice after one of the practices when they would do some of that extra conditioning, like they needed it right after practicing like 5 hours with 2 days. But I will never forget after the second practice, they had certain players, stay, and the team trainer and strength coach would make him run the 53, right, which is across the field, 53-yard dash. And I'll never forget, this was probably a week or maybe 2 into training camp. This is like the dog days are setting in. And Simeon was running right next to John Lynch. And John Lynch, Hall of Famer, very well-conditioned athlete, played baseball, football, right? Yeah. Looked like he was going to pass out. Matter of fact, everybody looked like they were going to pass out. It was probably not a wise idea at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, whenever it was, to be running these conditioning drills after the second practice. Simeon was just bounding across the field like a gazelle.
Like a gazelle.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he just had this, like he was bouncing. It wasn't even running. It was just bouncing. Yeah. And sweat running down his face, smile, the ever-present smile. And I just remember marveling at that, saying, this guy could do this all day.
Yeah, he's different. He's just different.
He could do it all day. He was literally the best athlete I've ever seen, that I've ever covered and seen up close, in terms of just pure, sheer athleticism.
Yeah.
He never got tired. He never got fatigued. And by God, if he did, he never showed it.
Yeah. And the funny thing, and this kind of came up at the press conference, because he mentioned that, when they played in Philly and Rondé picked off a pass, I don't even know if he scored.
Right.
And I later on, I was like, you do know Rondé scored, right? You do know that.
Yeah.
And he's like, did he? I don't, because he doesn't think in details and never.
No.
In fact, if you asked him who was in his division when he played, he wouldn't be able to tell you. He don't care. Yeah. All he was laser focused on winning and being the best player he could be. All that other stuff was just kind of, for people who really love to follow football. He doesn't watch football anymore, not much of it, doesn't really follow it at all. It's just he'd love to play it. He'd love to play it.
Exactly.
He's just a special cat, and I'm glad he's finally getting his due.
I am too, man. It was fun. That was the only disappointing part about my cruise was that press conference took place on May 19th, and I would have loved to have been there. I am looking forward to seeing Simeon, though, at the Arizona Cardinals game later this year, when he will be up in the rafters, along with the return of John Gruden. I don't think there's going to be necessarily a ceremony.
Another ceremony? No, I don't think so.
But they are going to put Gruden's name back up there in the Ring of Honor, and I think that's a great move. I'm all about forgiveness, and I think it's a great tenet, whether you're a Christian or not, doesn't matter. I think forgiveness for anybody is important, and I'm glad to see that the Glazers and Gruden have made amends, and that he is back in the Buccaneer family, and more importantly, as someone who delivered that first Super Bowl, who coached Simeon Rice. Get his name back up.
You can't tell the story of the Bucs without John
That's right.
Gruden. You just can't. And it just got to be part of that.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the story of the Buccaneers, well, it's the 50th year. This is the year 2025, and the Buccaneers have got a very interesting schedule this year. I'm going to put the schedule up. Just want to get your quick thoughts about it, because we're going to be talking about some of these teams that are on our list here for the top 5 threats to the NFC, and some of the teams we're going to be mentioning are on this list, JP. But really quickly, just kind of what stands out about this schedule. They open at Atlanta. Todd Bowles is undefeated in openers. They do have some really formidable foes on there. I'm not sure if you consider the Falcons formidable or not. They swept the Bucs last year.
Yeah,
but then you got the Eagles. The 49ers have been a thorn in their side. They've won 3 straight games. The Lions again. Yeah. So there are a couple of teams on this list. The Rams is another one. That's going to be an interesting game later in the year on Sunday Night Football. But there are some names we're going to talk about today, some teams that are on this schedule that the Buccaneers, I think, these are kind of measuring stick games.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just we know who we're going to play and where. We just didn't know the juxtaposition. And when it came out, honestly, I don't think if you're as a Buccaneers fan, you could have asked for anything better. Right. It really, I think it's that good of a schedule for them, just in terms of the juxtaposition of the games. First of all, no international travel. That will wreck your season more than anything else. Yeah. So that's huge. Number 2, the bye week is perfectly positioned in the beginning, and you get a mini bye late with the Thursday night game with your home. Yep. So you're not even going on the road on Thursday night. So you get that mini bye late, which Todd Bowles even said that's awesome. Yeah. So you get those 2 byes that are perfectly positioned. Buffalo could have been a cold weather game. It's not going to be, we don't think, on November 16th. We don't think it'll be 6 inches snowing, but you never know. There's not the exception of that at Buffalo, at Rams the next week. Yeah. That's probably the only really tough thing they have there. Tough stretch with at Seattle, San Fran at home, at Detroit, but then you got to go to New Orleans. That's kind of a home game, and that should be pretty easy. So I think that 4 is starting with the Eagles, then at Seattle, San Francisco, Detroit. That's a tough 4-game stretch right there. But I think the first 3 games are very winnable, even though Houston will be better on the road now that they're healthy. Obviously, 2 weeks in, they'll be healthier. So I think you'll see more of the team from 2 years ago, the playoff team, than what we saw last year. Yeah. And so I think when you look at the schedule late in the season, you get 4 of the last 6 at home, and and those 2 road trips are to Carolina, Miami, which are hour-long flights. So I don't think it could have been any better, to be quite honest. And there's a lot of good challenges on this. You're playing a first place schedule, so that's going to be tough. But and all games in the NFL are tough. It doesn't really matter. Some are just tougher than others. Yeah. And I think they got to, and I don't mind starting on the road for the first 2 weeks. I think it's kind of, because if your first game is a road game, it's not, you got 2 weeks to prepare. Right. So there's no quick travel, doesn't really bother you. So I like starting on the road.
Yeah.
And then at Houston, on a Monday night, that should be super. That's going to be a great game in front of the nation.
Mm-hmm.
Then the rest of it, I just think I like it. I like it. I don't like the 1:00 games in Tampa in September. That should be outlawed in my mind.
Right.
But is what it is. We'll be in the air-conditioned press box.
I was going to say, at least we'll be in the air-conditioned press box. So there's that. The one thing that's interesting to me about the finish is you've got all these NFC games, right? To end it. You get the Rams, the Cardinals, the Saints, the Falcons, the Panthers twice. Then you got the Dolphins in there, in week 17. It's almost like a college football schedule where it's like, you start the non-conference and you get in, deep into your
SEC
your conference
schedule.
Yeah, right.
And then there's Slippery Rock week 11.
Exactly. Yeah. Then there's Kent State, right? Like right before your season finale, which is interesting. And who knows about the Dolphins? I'm just saying, it's like, and I don't mean any disrespect or any harm or ill will towards Tua Tagovailoa, but I don't know if he's going to be there.
He'll be hurt by then. Yeah,
he might be hurt by then. So
Bryce Young right before him, the week before him. Yeah. Or who will Bryce Young be around for the final 2 games? Of the regular season that are week 16 and week 18 when we play them. Yeah, probably not. Yeah, probably not. No disrespect again.
No disrespect. Yeah, not hoping for it, but I mean, just history.
Very slightly built quarterbacks that have been taking a lot of punishment this year,
for sure,
with not great offensive lines, and that's what happens.
Exactly. All right, let's get into our list here, because the funny thing is, I asked you to text me your list, and really, with the exception of one team, and we'll kind of get into that, it was like exactly like. So
interesting.
You and I share a brain on this, which is great. Let's start in reverse order, and we actually have 6 teams, but we're going to start with number 5, and we'll clarify this, and by the end of the show, you'll understand. But we're starting with number 5, and this is a team that is on Tampa Bay's schedule this year, and it's the Los Angeles Rams, a team that historically has given Todd Bowles' defense some fits, so much so that he's like, let me have the Rams offense, please. Right.
Yes.
Let me import this. And he kind of got a version of it with Dave Canales, because there are some roots, even though he came from Seattle, the roots of that offense were from Shane Waldron, who started with the Rams and then went to the Seahawks. But then he's like, okay, well, that's great, Dave. I appreciate that. But now you're in Carolina. Let me really just tap into the Rams and get Liam Cohen and bring him here. And I think there's a little bit of genius in this, and the fact that, remember when John Gruden had the West Coast offense out in Oakland, and then as the football gods and fate allowed, JP, all of the teams that the Bucs faced in 2002, which was John Gruden's first year, they were all West Coast offenses, from Jeff Garcia and the San Francisco 49ers.
I didn't realize that. To
Donovan McNabb and the Philadelphia Eagles in that NFC Championship game, to who? The Oakland Raiders and Rich Gannon. It was the exact same West Coast offense that the Bucs defense had faced for weeks in training camp, right? Mm-hmm. So there was all this familiarity with the West Coast offense, which, was a prevalent offense back then. But I just think that familiarity just really helped. And now I wonder, the Bucs haven't played the Rams for a couple of years now. And I think the last time they played them, right, was the NFC divisional playoffs in 2021. They didn't play them in 2022, or maybe they did. I think that was the game. I think that they last played him, where Stafford wasn't the quarterback; it was a backup. But anyways, not a lot of success, right, with Todd Bowles. But I think now he has a better grasp on this offense because he's seen it in practice the last couple of years.
Yeah, and hopefully should be better. They added Devontae Adams as well.
Yeah.
And subtracted Cooper Kupp. Thank God, and we'll see him again. But
still got Puka Nacua, right?
Still got Puka Nacua.
Kyron Williams, the running back.
Yeah, I mean, they're loaded. They're loaded offensively. There's no question about that. Of course, you got the best offensive mind probably in Sean McVay. Higbee at tight end. Yeah. They added Terrence Ferguson. This is a team that is going to score points, and I think it. But as to your point, the Bucs should know what they're doing against this team. They've done it enough against this scheme, and they should know it by now since they practice against it. And what's vastly improved is the Rams defense with Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, those 2 FSU guys.
That's right.
That remade their defense. Their defense is getting better.
Yeah.
So I like the Rams. I like their coaching. I like, that run they made last year with the team that probably was beat up and not, not as talented. Matthew Stafford played his ass off, I thought.
Yep.
And he's still really, really good. So the Rams they're definitely a force. No question about it.
Isn't it crazy how, Tom Brady leaves the Buccaneers and the Bucs really don't miss a beat, right? They get Baker Mayfield, and as crazy as it sounds, like they didn't miss a beat. They're a better team now than they were in 2022, which was Brady's last year with the team. But the Rams defense, it might actually even be better without Aaron Donald. That's not taking anything away from Aaron Donald, who is a Hall of Fame, game-changing type of player, one of the best to ever do it. But as you mentioned, Braden Fisk, they brought in Poona Ford, who is a great run-stuffing nose tackle along that front that already had Kobe Turner, Byron Young, and then, as you mentioned, they add Jared Verse. I mean, like, the defense now is probably better than it was with Aaron Donald because they just have
more athletes,
athletes and more talent, right?
Yeah, I like the Rams, and I think that run last year showed what they're all about, and I think they're continuing to improve. Yeah. They had to go through that time when they were, restructuring from after the Super Bowl, which the Bucs so famously had avoided, stayed in the playoffs. It's absolutely horribly tough to do, and they did it. And so, but the Rams had to go through that, and now they're on the other side. They've gotten a lot of their draft picks back, and they drafted well.
They did it really, really quickly through the draft.
Yeah, they did.
They hit on a lot of drafts.
Les Snead, I believe, is their GM, correct?
Yeah.
Smart guy.
He used to say F them picks, but now he's making the most of those
them effing picks now.
That's right.
That's right. Hey, there's a window. There's a time. You got to know when to fire and when not to. And he was right.
So your number 4 selection is the one that I didn't disagree with, but it was a little eye-opening to me. We're going to talk about it. It's the Minnesota Vikings. Justin Jefferson, JJ, right? He's one of the best in the business. And I think that when you look at the Vikings, right, it looked like disaster struck early on when JJ McCarthy, their guy, was out before it even started. And then, all right, fine. Well, they got Sam Darnold. Well, Sam Darnold turned into the next Geno Smith and resuscitated his career, so much so that, he got a nice contract elsewhere. And now it's JJ McCarthy's turn. But there's a lot of weapons there. Aaron Jones in the backfield, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. I mean, that's an offense that can certainly, produce points. And I think the reason why you're high on them is probably the reason why I think you are. They got a good coach, right?
And they just
when you navigate all of that storm as well as he did. That's a sign of a really good coach.
You know why I know they're really smart and a good organization. They won 14 games last year because what they do, they went out in the offseason and really bolstered the interior of their offensive line.
Yeah.
They got Will Freeze, Ryan Kelly, the center and the guard. Then they brought another guard, Donovan Jackson, with their first-round pick. So that solidifies that for J.J. McCarthy, who's coming back off an ACL, who, we can't forget, played tremendously well in those first few games. He was really, really good. Yeah. Now, is he going to put up the numbers that Darnold did? That's going to be awful tough. But, with the weapons around him and that coach, and now you have a really good offensive line.
Right.
Why not? Why not? I think he's probably got a better athletic skill set. Well, I know he does than Sam Darnold, but Darnold's pretty good. I know everybody's like, well, they're not going to win 14 games again. Well, they probably won't, but they might win 12, which makes them a damn good team.
Sure.
I like Minnesota. I like what they've done in the offseason, and coaching matters. I'm gonna put them in number 4. We didn't want to talk about my co-5, the Falcons. Are we going to talk about them later?
We'll talk about the Falcons later. But here's the thing: when you look at the defense too, right? There's a couple really interesting pieces there. They added Andrew Van Ginkel from Miami, and he was gangbusters last year as a free agent. And then Ivan Pace Jr., who played at Cincinnati, really undersized, kind of short, like 5'9", 5'10", was like a Sam Mills middle linebacker. And dude can hit and he can run. So I know that the Rams offense, especially with the head coach and McCarthy and all of that, they get more of the attention. But that defense too played a big time role in those 14 wins last year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at their front four, Jonathan Allen, Harrison Phillips, Javon Hargrave,
Yep.
are their front three. And then you got Pace Jr. and Blake Cashman, good, and Van Ginkle. You've got some really good linebackers, Jonathan Grenard.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got some good talent on that team. And their defense, I think, was 3 or 4 last year?
It was up there.
Highly ranked.
Top 10 for sure, if not top 5.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, do not sleep on the Vikings. I think people thought that they overachieved last year, and they did. So they think they'll take a big step back. I don't think it's going to be a big step back. I think it might be a small step just in wins, but I think they're a really, really good football team.
And that's such a competitive division. I mean, you got the Lions in there, you got the Packers in there, and then the Bears are going to be improved. I think Ben Johnson knows what he's doing. I'm not sold on
They're
Caleb Williams,
such a wild card. I was looking at them for my top 5, and I'm like, I'm just not sold on Caleb. And their defense is good, but they've had a lot of great offensive pieces.
Yeah.
But until I see Caleb do it, and Ben Johnson is an unknown as well as a head coach,
it's going to take some time.
Thought Josh McDaniels would be the greatest head coach ever because he was such a good OC. Doesn't always work that way. And,
no, it doesn't.
And Ben Johnson, his body language, just the way he doesn't really strike me as a head coach.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. And the other thing too is he really took his time, right? He wasn't like Liam Cohen, where we're like, hey, I'm the hot crap and I'm going to go take over the job and I'm ready and let's get this thing rolling. He really, really waited.
He was waiting for the low hanging fruit.
I think he was, but then also, too, it was there a lack of confidence there too?
Maybe. Sometimes I also think guys want to see it through. He knew that the Lions were on the verge of something big.
Yeah. If they didn't do it last year, it's like, I don't know when they're going to do it. Right. I mean, that was the year. I mean, they had the Commanders at home. They got throttled and last year was, I think, their year. Not saying that they're not going to be formidable too. We have them on the list, but the
roster's too good. You can't take them off.
It is. They'll have new coordinators, so it'll take a little bit of an adjustment time, but the talent is still there. And as much as it's about the X's and O's, football is a game about the Jimmies and the Joes. Right? We can agree on that. Speaking of those,
before we get to them, though.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
We got to go through the Commanders.
Those pesky Commanders.
Yeah.
I used to call them the Commodes because I grew up as a Washington Redskin fan. I was born just outside of D.C. before I moved to Kansas City. And so the Redskins were my favorite team. I did not like the Commanders' name, name change and all that stuff. So I call them the Commodes. Listen, after last year, they've earned my respect. They're a damn good football team. Dan Quinn's a football coach who knows how to get it done. They were the surprise team last year, but guess what? I don't think they were a Cinderella team. I think this is a team that's here to stay in the NFC, and you think that too. You have them as the number 3 threat to the Buccaneers on your list, and I agree with you, JP.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels, I had him as the offensive rookie of the year last year and wanted me a little money there
you go.
Over Caleb Williams. I think the world of him. I still don't know how FSU beat him two years in a row.
I know.
He's tremendous. He's such an accurate passer. He's a tremendous runner.
He's unflappable too.
He's unflappable. Really, really is. And that's from playing so much damn football. And how many games did he start? 65, 70 games in college. So you get that great experience, you get the reps. And so that's why I thought it would be more of a seamless transition.
Yeah.
And, I worked for 1 year with Dan Quinn in Atlanta, and I knew he would bring energy. If nothing else, Dan Quinn was going to bring some energy.
That's right.
And some positiveness. And I really thought that he would turn them around, not to 12 wins like they got last year. And then, I'm still a little sore about that game. Sorry. Yeah. There's no way the Bucs should have lost to this team. There's no way.
I agree.
Even though I love Jaden Daniels, the Bucs should have won that game. They were the better team in my opinion.
But if you play that game 10 times, I think the Buccaneers win 7 of those. It just wasn't their night, right? They just couldn't get off the field. I really applaud Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn.
They had a great plan.
For just saying we're not punting this game, we're not kicking unless it's a game-winning field goal. Like we're going for touchdowns. We're
keeping that Buccaneers offense off the field.
That's right.
Yep. We can't do it with our defense because our defense sucks. So we're going to do it with our offense. And that was a great play. That's how you manage games to win.
Yep.
And Todd Bowles got outmanaged that game.
He did.
We love Todd, but he got outcoached and outmanaged that game. But it doesn't take away from they are a good football team.
They are.
I mean, Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler, that's a really good tandem of backs right there. And McLaurin And now they add Deebo Samuel, although
Yep.
McLaurin didn't show up for OTAs today.
Yeah.
Yep. Hopefully he'll be a holdout. Zach Ertz at tight end with Bates, and they get Laramie Tunzel, bring him in to solidify the offensive line. Biadish at center is one of the best. So they're just really, really good.
Yeah. They spent one of their high picks on Josh Connerly Jr. As well, the right tackle. So they put some resources into that offensive line, because when you have a franchise quarterback, you got to protect him, right? That's the name of the game. The one thing I'm a little maybe leery of is, and I know Dan Quinn can coach, but that defensive line, right? Jonathan Allen's no longer there.
Right.
Deron Payne he's still good. Dorrance Armstrong is just kind of like he's one of Dan Quinn's guys, right? From Dallas and all of that. But he doesn't strike fear in me. Dietrich Wise, kind of the same thing. I think their pass rush is a little lackluster. They have Johnny Newton from Illinois, who was a St. Pete guy. He's in there with Javon Kinlaw, who they added. I think they're solid defensively, but their defense doesn't really scare me that much. Marshawn Lattimore is another year older.
Yeah.
And at some point in time, he's falling off a cliff, and he might have 1 foot over that cliff right now. He's one of the starting corners. They traded for him last year. Bobby Wagner is kind of the ageless wonder, but he's not the player he used to be. Even Levante David last year was not the player he used to be.
Still pretty good with Luvo. Luvo and Wagner are a good tandem inside.
It's a good 1-2 punch, but I'm just saying
they're getting older.
They're getting older, and at some point you fall off the cliff, and it happens to everybody.
Yeah, their secondary is not great.
Yeah.
So, which plays into the Buccaneers. They're gonna, I think these two teams are very similar in a lot of different ways. But I think the Bucs had a chance to beat them at home last year and should have done it.
Yep.
They're not, and the Commanders aren't going anywhere. Neither are the Bucs for the next few years. So
I agree.
This will definitely be one of our chief rivals.
I agree, and it's going to be fun to watch. They're not playing this year, but I get a funny feeling we're going to see the Commanders in the postseason, right?
Somewhere in the playoffs. See them then. Yeah,
exactly.
Again.
We have a super chat. Let's get to that. That's from LDBC's Most Wanted, $4.99. Thank you very much for that, LDBC's Most Wanted. Saludos, PR. Baker Mayfield needs 29 touchdowns to reach 200 for his career. How soon into the season do you think he will do it? Well, I mean, he had 41 last year.
His over-under for the season was 22.5. I smoked that one.
Crazy.
That was crazy. I haven't even checked what it is this year, but I'm going over.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going over too. 29 touchdowns. I think that's doable by December 1st.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you look at the weapons he has, and see, that's the whole thing, right? It's just all about football's a game of matchups. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. And the reason why Tom Brady was so effective, I mean, aside from being the greatest to ever do it, right, was he had the intelligence with the pre-snap reads to look at the matchup. And these are the 4 matchups he had. Mm-hmm. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rob Gronkowski, and Antonio Brown, right? So he had 4 absolute studs out there. And he just looked at the coverage, looked at the matchup. He knew where the ball was going to go before it was even snapped, right? Yeah. And then it's just pitch and catch. That's all it is.
Well, it's his ridiculous accuracy and velocity in the tight window.
Yeah. And you know what? Baker Mayfield doesn't get enough credit for the football IQ that he has.
Or his arm strength.
Yeah.
You talk to people in the league, scouts and everybody, you talk about arm strength. He's in the top 5.
He is.
He's got a freaking cannon.
He's like a pitcher, man. He's got a heater. But JP, now you've got Mike Evans. You've got Chris Godwin coming back. Chris will be back at some point, whether it's week 1 or week 2 or whatever. He'll be back. And when he gets back, he'll be pretty darn close to being Chris Godwin. Probably not all the way back till next year. But remember, even when he came off the ACL, he still had a 1,000-yard season in 2022.
I know. That was one of the greatest seasons that people never talk about. Because he was probably about 70%.
Yeah.
70-80%
at the start of the season, and then you get the wear and tear by the end of the season. It's probably closer to 6.
That was incredible. They put up his house.
So JP, Mike, Chris, Jalen McMillan proved that he can take advantage of the lesser coverages, right? Because I mean, you only have so many studs on defense, right? I don't know any secondary that's got 5 studs. 2 outside corners, 2 safeties, and a nickel. There's nobody with that 5 Pro Bowlers in the secondary. So somebody or maybe 2 or 3 are going to get the favorable matchups. Jalen McMillan took advantage of that for 8 touchdowns last year. Now you have Egbuka, who's kind of the second coming of Chris Godwin.
Yeah, great route runner.
Some 4 wide receiver sets, JP.
Yeah, and that, down in that red area, if you go zone, he'll kill you. There's too smart for you to go zone in that red area. So you got to go man in situations. And this is where continuity comes in, especially in the red zone, because you got to read body language. And that just comes from reps with the receivers. And Baker, Mike have unspoken body language words in the red zone. You can see their chemistry is fantastic on the fades. They just know. Yeah. And Mike does such a good job of pushing off and not getting called for it. And the older he gets, the more he gets away with it, by the way, which I love. He's getting the Jordan rules now, which is fantastic. Rules. Yeah. So hey, use it to your advantage. Yep. And I thought Cade Otton got a lot better in the area as well. Yeah. And I think Payne Durham is as big as you go too tight. You got 2 guys that you really trust. In the red zone. And Egbuka, boy, does he run great routes.
He does.
I was watching his footwork on some of the video that came out this week, and holy moly, he is quick. He is decisive. Man. He's polished. That's it. He is a professional wide receiver. And coming from that Brian Hartline room in Ohio State, look, this guy knows how to coach him up. And this guy, he is a finished product. So yeah, you got some great targets in the red zone, and that was one of the big reasons why Baker had so many touchdown passes last year, because you got to use it on early downs, and they'll use it on early downs in the red zone. It's
JP,
good stuff.
How many games did he not have Chris Godwin? 10.
How
many games did he not have Mike Evans? Pretty much 4.
4,
right?
Yeah.
So it's like if you get Chris, let's just talk. Football's a collision sport, not a contact sport. Collision sport. Let's say you get Chris for 14 games, right? He misses 3 with a nick here, there, whatever, right? Let's say you get Mike for 15. He misses a couple games of the hammy or whatever, right? You have those guys, then you add Egbuka, you've got Jalen, and in year 2, he should be better. You have Cade Otton, who's improved. You got Bucky out of the backfield, Rashad White, who had 6 touchdown catches last year. It's not a stretch, to go back to the original question, it's not a stretch for Baker Mayfield to beat Tom Brady's record this year, 43 touchdown passes.
43 touchdowns, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, of all those receivers, I didn't even mention, trying to be a linebacker and covering Bucky out of the backfield in the red area, or Rashad. Right. Either one of those guys, really tough in the red area to cover.
Yep.
An embarrassment of riches.
It is. We were just talking about the Commanders. We have a comment here from Hezo813, who's been a Pewter Report TV channel member for 9 months. Thank you so much, Hezo. That's awesome. Commanders' loss was a blessing in disguise. It forced Todd Bowles to take a hard look in the mirror. You know what? I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly, because of the way they lost, right? Sure, it was a close loss. Sure, they should have won. There were some game management issues there that forced Todd to go out and get Zach Beastline, the game management coach. But more importantly, the pass rush wasn't there. Jaden Daniels only got sacked 1 time by Levante David, right? Kalijah Kancey missed. Yaya Diaby missed. We saw coaching changes shook up the coaching staff this offseason. I agree with Hezo. I think it's a great point.
I'd rather won the game.
You'd rather win the game, but
you're right.
but you're going for the greater good here, right? Like you're making lemonade out of lemons, right?
Yeah, and we didn't think last year was the year either.
Correct.
We thought this year would be the year because you can go out and add an edge rusher, which they did in Hassan Reddick. He's coming into practice.
He's coming.
Okay.
He'll be there.
We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So you addressed, and to Todd Bowles' credit, he is a very self-aware man, and I'm telling you, there are a lot of coaches in this league that are going to kind of go out there and hire a full game manager,
especially at 61, JP.
61, yeah, they're just switch the coaching staff around, and from what we're hearing, switch the defense around. This is a system that he developed, that he came up with, that he's saying, you know what? Maybe it's run its course a little bit. We got to tweak it, or maybe majorly tweak it here. Yeah. And there's not many that will do it. Not many that will do it. So I give him full marks on saying I got to get better in these areas and going and doing it. Do something about it. So high marks for that.
Yeah. I said earlier in the week, and you and I, you're a couple years older than me, although you don't look it, but you are. But isn't it funny to kind of be in your 50s, JP? Because like I'm kind of embracing like the, get off my lawn, like the old man, yells at sky,
Well,
yells at clouds. I kind of like that. It's kind of fun to be grumpy.
plus our track record is good. We keep
Right.
turning out to be right.
Exactly.
The old men. Yeah, that's right. You were right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It's called wisdom, right?
It's called wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see it coming.
But exactly. But at the same time, though, I mean, I'm with you. I give Todd Bowles a lot of credit because my wife, who's like 9 years younger than me, she's like, you're an old dog. I can't teach you any new tricks. And it's like, well, I'm trying to learn. I mean, holy crap.
Open-minded.
Yeah. I'm learning. I'm just not as fast as the youngsters, but I give Todd, who's, about 10 years older than me or 8, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And, I think it's going to help this team tremendously. And I think the fact that he's giving more responsibility to his assistant coaches, maybe, and maybe, I don't know, you think he's still going to be doing the play calling this year?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No doubt.
ask him on Monday if he's even thought, because he's talked about,
he's talked
giving
about
it up before.
I actually have it on the list too. My question.
All right. I think he's
I know the answer.
He's inching closer to it. I mean, is this the year? Is this the year? I don't know.
He's going. That's his baby. He's calling the defense.
All right.
But my question to him on Monday.
That was probably the deal. All right, I'll hire this. I'll hire all these. I'll do everything else you want, but I'm keeping the plays. Okay.
Exactly. But I'm curious. Is he going to still give like Larry Foote a game in the preseason to call plays?
Yeah, I hope so.
Is he going to give George Edwards the opportunity to call plays? From maybe the press box or something, or is he just going to say, "I'm doing the whole damn thing this year, including the preseason game"? So
we'll see.
I don't know. Yep. And just in case you're joining us and you're wondering what's happening on Monday, well, Todd Bowles is going to be on the show on Monday.
That's right.
Bucs head coach, special guest on Monday, June 2nd. Be there or be square. We used to say that back in the day, JP.
That's right.
And that's here on Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel. And then make sure you watch all of next week's podcast. But we're still determining what those topics are going to be. We do know we have Jason Light the next Monday, the general manager, the head honcho, the big cheese, the honcho. He is going to be the guest on Monday, June 9th.
You should talk music with both of them.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Well,
they both love music and they're 80s and 90s guys like
true.
Us too.
I believe Todd is more Motown, which is cool.
Yeah.
He's more Motown.
So am I.
Yeah, and I like some Motown for sure. I like Jason's music a little more, Metallica, AC/DC. I'm more of a metalhead.
I'm not kind of in the middle there. I'm a huge Motown fan. Motown fan. So
very cool.
Yeah. So I ask him some music questions too. I'd love to hear that.
I will do that. The kind of music that they play at Walk-Ons, it's kind of hard to describe. It's TV noise. Why? Because they've got TVs galore with all the sports going on right now. Whether it's golf, whether it is the NBA or the NHL finals that are wrapping up, whether it's the Rays, it's the place to go to watch sports. And of course, when it's football season, it's every college game you can imagine on Saturdays and all the NFL games on Sundays. And if you want to watch those games, well, they're on the weekend pretty much. But during the week, you're not going to find a better happy hour, folks. Get to Walk-Ons. If you have not experienced the magic of Walk-Ons, do so this week. And you can even go tonight because they got a happy hour going on right now. It's Thursday from 3 to 6. Then they have another one tonight from 9 to close. So, and if you miss it, well, guess what? There's a happy hour tomorrow from 3 to 6 on Fridays. Monday, it's 3 p.m. to close. And then all day on Tuesdays, happy hour with $5 Tito's. What do you get? $3.99 domestic pints, $5 premium house pours or happy hour wines, $5.49 for the 22-ounce domestic drafts. $4 get you the hush puppies or the onion rings, $7 for the boom boom shrimp, or a half order of waffle cheese fries, or the spinach and artichoke dip that Ashley and I love so much, or $8 for the boneless wings. The cheeseburger sliders, I make a meal out of those. So Get to Walk-Ons, eat like a winner, drink like a champ. 3 Tampa Bay area locations: Midtown Tampa by the stadium, Wesley Chapel up here by the Outlet Mall, by my house, or over in Lakeland. You will not regret it.
Great food. They have great food.
Yep. Yeah. One of my absolute
Not
favorite
just the
places.
bar food too, like their entrees.
Oh yeah.
Really, really good.
Yeah.
They've
got a blackened chicken pasta dish that is phenomenal.
That's what I had that last time I was there. Fantastic.
Yep. It's so good. Let's finish up our list here, shall we, JP? We're at number 2, but we actually have 3 teams to talk about. So how does that work? Well, I wasn't good in math, but we'll get to that in a minute. Well, let's talk about the number 2 threat. It is the Detroit Lions.
Yeah. They lost. Everybody's talking about the coordinators. They lost Aaron Glenn to the Jets as the head coach, Ben Johnson to the Bears. But they still got Dan Campbell. And they still got Jared Goff. They still got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They still got Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta. I mean, Frank Ragnow, Penei Sewell, Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, it's this the roster's a wagon, man. It's an absolute wagon. They're gonna the continuity is gonna be there. Goff is he knows this offense tremendously well. Alex Anzalone coming back, Hayden Hutchinson coming back. They're just a really, really good team, and they got a lot of good veterans. They've learned how to win. They've won in comeback fashion. They got a quarterback that can bring you back in the fourth quarter. So I don't know how good their coordinators are going to be. It is no question about it. It is a question mark, but you cannot deny that this is I still think it's the second best roster in the NFC behind the Eagles. And coaching's important. It's really important, but players are more important.
Doesn't it seem like Dan Campbell, like he has an alter ego as like a wrestler? Doesn't he always seem like he's like a WWE guy, like in an NFL head coach's persona?
No question,
a little bit.
No question. I love his motivation. I love his fire. Coaching is you can do it a lot of different ways. And Todd Bowles has his way, and Tony Dungy had his way, and Gruden had his way. I prefer the Dan Campbells of the world. I want my coach to be, fire and brimstone, and just be all in it
by the end of the game, right?
Yeah, be all in it and showing that emotion.
Yeah,
and he does. And I think this, like I said, this is an emotional game, and the leaders matter. And I think he has made this team, has brought a culture to this team of winning, and they show it every week on the field. I think they're a really, really good football team. I don't see them taking a step back.
Yeah. It's interesting because you mentioned Tony Dungy and Todd Bowles, and both those gentlemen are alike, right? They're
very much so.
They're relatively quiet on the field, right? They don't yell and scream. No one's going to confuse them for John Gruden or Bruce Arians, right? They don't get, they don't pop veins in their necks or anything like that from yelling and screaming at the refs. But I asked Todd about that, and I had to sit down with him. I want to say it was before training camp last year. We sat down and talked for like an hour, and it was on the record. Some of it was off the record, but I talked to him and I said, Bucs fans get irritated because you don't show your emotion and all that. And he's like, I can't, because if I panic, then the players see that.
Yeah.
And I want to be calm so the players will play calm, because when you're panicking, when you're so irate, you cannot focus on the next play. I mean, there's some real psychology and some real intellect
correct.
There, and I
100% correct.
Totally get that, and he's right. He said,
"Well, notice Dan Campbell doesn't call the plays."
Exactly, yes, right. But the interesting thing that Todd said was, and I wish I had the exact quote. Maybe I'll read it to him on Monday. He said, he said like he's like a tornado though inside, right? Like he is just like absolutely livid. He's dropping F-bombs like in his head, to the refs, to the players, like to whoever, So it's like, what you see is not always what you get. He's not like this calm, cool, collected guy. It looks like it on the outside, but on the inside, it's like a volcano. And I mean, it was kind of cool.
How he holds it in. I don't know.
Exactly.
How he holds it in sometimes.
Exactly.
And kudos to him. And that's his style. And if he tried to do it any other way, he would look inauthentic. The players would know it, and it would be weird.
Yeah.
So, this is who he is. It's how he does it. He's had tremendous success. He's got probably the best team he's ever had this year, I think. And we'll see what he does with it. He'll be the first to tell you 2 and 6 and 7-point games is not good enough for the team or for the head coach.
Yep.
And a lot of those games come down to game management, and the great coaches find a way to win them. And the other coaches don't. And we're going to find out which one Todd Bowles is this year, because it has not been a strength of his. Close games. It's just the record shows that, and he's doing everything he can to address it. So
I agree.
What more could you ask? And I think he'll be better. And I think last year he was much more aggressive than he was previously.
No question about it. I'm with you on that. Just a couple ground rules because we've had a couple questions here. I do have one eye in the chat and one eye respectfully on JP and listening to him. But this is the last show before Todd Bowles joins us. And so as first name greatest says, can we super chat tough questions? Yes. The ground rules for this interview with Todd Bowles and also with Jason Light too. It applies to both, just like it applies to the players. We had Zion McCollum on, Yaya Diaby, etc. If you super chat us with respectful questions or comments, we will put those up. If they're deemed not to be respectful, it means they can be tough. That's fine. If you want to ask Jason Light, why'd you draft a wide receiver in the first round, not a linebacker? Like, you can ask that. You can super chat us because we will have big numbers for these shows. We'll have a ton. It'll be like a constant scroll. We're not going to be able to read all the comments. The super chats, they do get starred. They do get put in a separate folder here on my admin. So we can see those and they stay up there. And that's why, we hey, listen, money talks, right, JP? So
is first name greatest insinuating that you're not going to have tough questions?
Oh, no, we'll ask tough questions. But what he's talking about is, can the fans ask tough questions? And yes, the fans, you can super chat tough questions as long as they are respectful and as long as we deem them to be appropriate. And we cannot make any assertions or guarantees that every super chatted question will get asked, though. But we will do our best. Stank is my baby's dad. He says, I can only imagine all the questions Jason Light is going to be getting. I just said this about drafting a wide receiver in the first round, not a linebacker. You can ask that if you want. Super chat, and we'll throw it out there, and we'll see what he has to say.
I know exactly what the answer is.
I do too. Emeka Egbuka's highest rated player.
It was asked at the press conference. Yes, many times. Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is, I believe Emeka Egbuka. He was rated a lot higher than he was not the 19th player on their board. It wasn't like, oh wow, look at this. We're here at number 19 and the 19th player is still up there.
They didn't choose a wide receiver over a edge rusher that they had rated the same.
Yes,
Egbuka was rated way higher than any edge rusher they had on their board. And so if you take the edge rusher, you're forcing it.
Yes,
and,
that's right.
And they may have ended up with a better guy in the fourth round anyway, David Walker. So
I know. Oh,
we shall see.
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah.
All right. So that last team, we know who it is. It's the team that we all kind of hate, but it's also a team the Buccaneers have kind of bullied the last two times, JP. It's the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, I'm worried about that because now they're like, they beat us last year when we didn't have our receivers and
AJ Brown,
whatever.
Yeah.
Shut up. We didn't have guys too.
Well, here's the interesting thing. I'll just stop you right there. AJ Brown has not played the last two games, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the wild card win by Tampa Bay, 32-9, and then last year 33-16. He was not playing in either of those games. The last time he did play against the Buccaneers was Rondé Barber night when he went into the he was already in the Ring of Honor, but it's when he got his Hall of Fame ring.
Right.
Week 3, Monday Night Football. Eagles came to town and just stomped the Buccaneers. And I think he had 9 catches for 147 yards, and he was unguardable. So if he's playing, it makes the Eagles even more potent.
Yeah, well, I mean, just go through the roster. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jordan Mailata. I mean, they're Jalen Carter, Zach Bond, Kobe Dean, Nolan Smith, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. I mean, they're just freaking loaded. They're freaking loaded. And, yes, they lose coordinators as well. How does it affect them? We'll see. A couple of years ago, it was difficult. So we'll see what happens with this team. I think they're just really, really good, but they don't scare me. And if you're a Bucs fan, you match up well. I mean, don't forget Saquon Barkley played in that game.
Yep.
And he did not take over the game. So that and you can't say that about almost every other team they played.
Yeah.
So the Bucs can stand up to them. They're a great run defense.
It's an interesting dynamic though, right? Because the Bucs are not afraid of the Eagles. They've handed them 2 tough losses in back-to-back seasons. But the Eagles probably are sick and tired of coming down to Tampa and
they are
getting punched in the mouth, right?
Yeah. And their fans maybe they'll be having second thoughts this time because it was so freaking hot last year. Maybe they'll keep their ass in Philadelphia. And by the way, and I know the Bucs are making an effort. This year they're putting out I forget exactly what they're kind of setting up a ticket exchange. So Buck fans, if you have to sell your tickets, you can sell them to other Buccaneer fans and know that they're other Buccaneer fans, which I think is a great thing. Because I think given the opportunity, Buck fans will sell to Buck fans.
Yeah.
You know, if they would rather do that, because nobody wants to see a bunch of freaking Eagles fans filling up our stadium again.
Right.
So let's, Pewter fans, I know economy's hard and sometimes you got to sell a couple of them to pay for the rest of them. I get it. But if we can sell them to Bucs fans, that would be a much better idea.
I agree. Well, there you have it.
So they're really good. They're really good. I mean, what more do you guys say about them? They're really freaking good, but we can handle them.
Yeah.
And I don't care if they have a tush push or not. I'd rather they not. And I think it was great that the Bucs voted against it.
Yep.
In terms of
I could see Desmond Watson getting called up from the practice squad
just for one game,
just elevated for that game. Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go. There's our top 5 teams in order. We'll go through them one more time here. We have the Rams at number 5.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the Vikings at number 4. We also have the Washington Commanders at 3, the pesky Commanders, the Lions at number 2, and then the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles at number 1. The one team that's kind of missing that you're probably thinking, well, didn't the Falcons sweep the Bucs last year? Yes. So the Falcons are actually number 6 on this team with an asterisk. Why the asterisk, JP? Is it because the Falcons always falcon?
Because they're dysfunctional.
Yeah.
I think it's a dysfunctional franchise. The whole quarterback disaster that they did last year in terms of drafting and signing Kirk Cousins, who's still on their roster, and Michael Penix and not showing up at OTAs. So that just creates I always like to compare to what the Bucs are doing. We know who our quarterback is. We know who the backup quarterback is. There's no controversy over any of that stuff. Everybody knows what their roles are. And I think Atlanta from last season, that choke at the end of the season, and it was a choke, has got to put doubt in their minds about their coaching staff, about everything. Until they get some more consistency in what they're doing and look like they actually have a plan. They've added some interesting pieces and gave away a first-round pick next year to get James Pierce Jr. Is he a guy that's going to flash? Is he, a lot of people had him as a very highly rated guy. I don't even know if the Bucs had him on their board. I bet they took him off, to be quite honest.
Yep.
So we'll see what they do, but they've got a decent roster. There's no question about it. Their defense isn't awesome, but Bijan Robinson, I think, is one of the top 5 running backs in the league. Penix, look, from what we saw, he's a dangerous quarterback. And I think the more he gets reps in the system, and which he's had this whole offseason, I think he's going to be a really good player. I do.
Yeah.
Drake London.
I think the Buccaneers
Darnell
at least
Mooney.
sweep them this year, and you'd love to have I shouldn't say sweep, split this year, at least split. But you'd love to have them win in week 1 to get off on a good foot. But then you also like to have them get the other win, right?
Yeah. I mean, you want to go in their house and just
handle business.
And I think Atlanta will have their chest puffed out, and there'll be a lot of a pomp and circumstance leading up to this game and blah blah blah. But I think it's one where I still think we're kind of the older brother and they're the younger brother, still nipping at our heels. I mean, we're the 4-time division champs. They've been knocking on the door, and yes, they beat us last year, but they couldn't close a deal.
That's right.
So I still think that they're they're not as good a roster as the Buccaneers, but they're dangerous. There's no question about it. And remember last year, one of those games that we lost to them, we came off. That was after the Eagles game, I believe.
Yep.
We talked about this, where it was about 110 degrees on the field, and it was a Thursday night, and we had to travel. And I said, there's no way these guys' bodies are going to recover. And
that's what happened. In the fourth quarter and overtime, they ran out of gas.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that's not going to be the case this year. So, and I think there's definitely a score to settle by the Buccaneers. I think they're highly motivated because there's a lot of crap talking from the Falcons, and that's good. That's good. And I hope and all the national pundits picking, not all this year. I think last year all of them picked the Falcons over the Bucs.
Yeah.
So we love that. I still think there's a few this year, right?
Probably.
But, so we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. We want to take this time to thank our Pewter Platinum members: Scott Federico, Rachel Gordon, Noah Parr, Scotty J, Dave Anderson, Hezo813, Ash Fishpool, Joel Elrican, Sam, John Dale Morris, Zach Brannigan, RP89, Eric McMillan, Connor For Reals, Kevin Thomas, Mario Thomas, Zach Jarvis, and Leighton Carter. Thank you so much for your continued support as Pewter Platinum members. We appreciate all of our Pewter Report TV channel members. Greatly appreciate that. We're getting ready to have our Pewter Platinum meetup. That's going to be soon. I've got to email you the details of that because we can't have everybody showing up. You got to be a Pewter Platinum member.
Nice.
But we're going to have Mike Greenberg and Zion McCollum going to attend that for our Pewter Platinum get together here. So nice. I do need email addresses. I've emailed everybody except for RP89, Ash Fishpool, Connor For Reals, and John Dale Morris. So if you're one of those 4 people, please email me at srpewterreport.com so I can email you the details of our get together. And we're looking forward to that. It's just like we look forward to having you on the Pewter Report podcast, JP. Thanks for
I look forward to having you on the JP Peterson Show every day from 10 to 12. You can listen to us. We talk a lot of Buccaneers on same places you see Pewter Report TV on YouTube, Facebook, also on our FanStream Sports app and fanstreamsports.com.
Real quick, I want to talk about you've got some amazing connections with the Rays, with the Lightning, as well as the Buccaneers. I mean, when it comes to football, basketball, hockey knowledge in this town, you're as plugged in as anybody.
Appreciate that.
And I love the roster of guests that you always have on the show.
Yeah, with one thing, we can't touch the Pewter Report's resources here when covering the Bucs. You guys kick ass. Well, it's fantastic, and I never miss it.
We have television on one team. You've got 3 sets of eyes.
We've got to cover everything, and we love that. We love that, but we love
college football too.
The Bucs is our number one thing that we talk about, and followed by probably the Rays, Lightning, and then college football. So, but we do it all. So I appreciate it. We've been doing it for a long time, and I don't know if there's another podcast that really tackles all the different sports as long as we do. So
I know,
and we enjoy doing it. So I appreciate it, and thank you for coming on so often as you do.
Of course. Make sure you check out the JP Peterson Show on FanStream Sports on YouTube, on X as well. You can see JP's channel there at JP Peterson Show. Make sure you give him a follow. Greatly appreciate everybody for tuning in. And also wanted to thank everybody again. If you missed yesterday's show, we had a milestone. We had 19,000 subscribers to our Pewter Report TV YouTube channel. So thank you, Pewter people, for all of that. And we're on the way to 20,000. That's our goal by the start of the regular season. Let's get through training camp. Let's get over 20,000. That would be fantastic.
Get rid of that picture.
That's key. Well, he's number 19. That's why it's key.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Like, why you got him up there?
Well, the next one's going to be Rondé Barber because he's the best 20.
Well,
right?
I hope so.
And then Donnie Abraham for 21. And
was there another 20 in the history of? I don't even remember if there was another.
He
20.
was the best, so he's getting a picture. But it was either him or Ike Hilliard at number 19. So we went with the Super Bowl champion Keyshawn Johnson just because of the 50 years of Buccaneer football. But reminder to all of you.
What have gone with Tom Tupa? Wasn't he 19?
Something like that. We've got our Pewter Insider Show tomorrow for our Pewter Platinum and Premier members. Can the Bucs O-line be even better in 2025? We'll talk about that. And just in case you missed it, Todd Bowles on Monday, 4 o'clock. And the next Monday, June 9th, we'll have Jason Light. That'll be right before the Bucs mandatory minicamp. And then we have OTAs next Tuesday. So we'll have Todd on before OTAs, and then we have OTA coverage on Tuesday. So lots of great stuff headed your way for the next week or two for Pewter Report for sure. And then we'll have some great content in this off season. So we kind of delve into the history of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Make sure that you are subscribed to Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel, and also visit pewterreport.com for the best Bucs coverage. We're going to have OTA coverage, mandatory minicamp coverage, and lots of cool, nostalgic memorabilia type of content this summer, as well as some previews to get you ready for training camp and the 2025 season. Make sure you follow.
50 years.
50 years, man. I know. I've been around.
You've been around
30
for
of them.
30 of it. I got 20. That's in my 28th year.
Oh, shoot, man.
The Bucs. Yeah.
It's a long time, brother.
I got here in 1997.
Okay, yeah.
What happened in 97?
They went to the playoffs for the first time.
Oh, after 14 years of futility, I arrived, and you can put it together.
There you go. Make sure you follow us on X, Facebook, and Instagram at Pewter Report, and of course, Pewter Report TV, our YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate everybody tuning in during the off season for these. These are fun to do. I love the 4 o'clock hour. It's an absolute favorite. Matt and I really enjoy it. Love having you on too.
That was
JP,
fun.
You're my favorite
Anytime,
guest,
man. Anytime. Love talking with the Buc fans. Appreciate you
got
guys.
it. For JP Peterson, I'm Scott Reynolds saying we'll see you on Monday for a very special edition of the Pewter Report podcast with Todd Bowles. And we do this little thing, put up your fingers like this. Like it's the Antoine Winfield Jr., victory symbol.
Peace
right?
out.
Out.
Thank you.